going on, Alex? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Southern California, you said, yes?
Yes, Southern California, in the
But
outskirts of Southern California.
what is you're explaining to me a little bit. What does the outskirts of Southern California mean?
So Southern California is kind of like a bubble, very city, obviously, but I live on the very top of Ortega Highway, which is one of the most dangerous highways in California. There's a lot of accidents on this highway. It's a very, very windy road on a cliff, basically. So a lot of accidents. So it's kind of a sketchy drive, but I'm at the very top. So I'm in between Orange County and Riverside County,
Okay.
technically in Lake Elsinore. So in the
Okay.
mountains.
All right. I love Newport Beach. Like Newport Beach is one of my favorite places.
Yeah.
And I don't like the ritzy side where I'll like, I
Yeah.
like the right by the strip of the beach, like the
Totally.
surfer boy side. And I'm not a
Totally.
surfer boy, but I just love that area.
Oh, I grew up in Dana Point. So if you're
Okay.
familiar with Dana
Yep.
Point.
Yep.
So
Cool. Nice.
yes. Yeah.
All right. So you do this meditation and spirituality thing.
I do.
And we were just talking offline a second ago that you just wrote this book, and I just love the title of it, The Rude Awakening.
Yes, The Maze, Her Rude Awakening. It is, it's because the awakening journey is dark and it's scary. I don't know who said the awakening journey is blissful and peace, butterflies, and it is the farthest thing from that.
Okay, so tell me what this means for you.
So, well, the book, The Maze, Her Rude Awakening, tells a story about a young woman named Pearl who is struggling with depression and anxiety, and she's having like suicidal thoughts. She's in a really dark place in her life. She ends up getting abducted by a deranged hypnotherapist. He puts her under hypnosis into this place known as the maze. And the maze takes place within her mind, carving through like the darkest parts of her psyche, leading her to nothing but the most cruel, horrific obstacles she can face. So she must find her way out of the maze alive, ultimately finding her truth within herself, peeling back her layers, feeling the deaths of her ego per se. So that's the what the book is about. But the maze, her rude awakening, like I said, the awakening process is nothing less than terrifying. It's really, really scary for us to go inwards and look at our inner wounds and our traumas and our, all of that stuff that we have to sit with that's influencing our life today and how we can work with it today and, choose to respond differently and basically just awaken to our inner truth.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
Okay. So
Yes.
yours might not have come yet, or maybe it has. You're young.
I'm very young. I would say for someone my age, I have been through quite a lot. Everyone has trauma. Everyone's been through their stuff. I definitely have had my fair share of stuff that I've been through that has gotten me to this place where I'm at now, where I'm just super passionate about mental health and, trying to help people cultivate self-awareness, which is something I'm still doing every single day myself. How to regulate the nervous system, which is something I'm also doing every day. But yes, I am young.
Yeah. So let's back up then. So you said you've been through a lot in such a short, young time.
Yes.
I would love to hear a little bit about your life.
Yeah. So, grew up in Southern California my whole life. I was constantly moving around Southern California from a small age. My parents, they divorced when I was 7. So even before and after their divorce, I was constantly moving. I went to about 4 different elementary schools alone. So growing up as a child, I felt very alone a lot of the times. I'm an only child also. So I was always alone, always going to new schools, always being the new kid. The first time I experienced depression was when I was in 5th to 8th grade. And that was for getting bullied constantly. I was always bullied for my weight, being too skinny, being called anorexic and all these things. And it was pretty aggressive back then, how often I was bullied. And that really took a toll on my mental health at that time. I don't really remember how I got through that depression at that time. I just remember kind of just slowly fading out of it. I don't know if my brain blocked out some of those memories.
I think we get tired of it.
I think so.
I think, especially as young people, like you're just like, okay, I've had enough of this, and it passes. It comes back if you don't deal with it, in my opinion. But it's just like, okay, I can't handle this anymore. Fine, we're done.
Totally. Yeah. I was kind of over it. And I'm just like, you know what, like I started growing tougher skin. People, the outside world, the judgment from the outside world started to get more quiet, which was good. So that was my first time experiencing depression. And then in 2015, I believe, actually like 2012, I started experiencing some health issues. I was starting to randomly faint. I was starting to randomly throw up, and very, very on and off, and wasn't sure what was going on. But in 2016, the year after I graduated high school, my health completely declined. I was in and out of the hospital every single week for months on end. I was throwing up every single day, up to 10 to 20 times a day.
What were they saying? What were they saying?
So the doctors, I was taking a plethora of tests, brain scans, ultrasounds, blood tests, MRIs, EKGs, every single test under the sun, and everything was coming back normal for months, actually for years. For 2 years, they did not know what was wrong with me. They just kept trying to put me on medication. So I was on 4 different types of medication for a few months, and then that just wasn't helping. So I actually switched to a homeopathic doctor.
When they say they put you on medication for what?
For nausea and stuff like that. So they said they straight up told me they did not know what was wrong with me, but here's some like nausea
so they
medication.
Just tried to treat the symptom of the nausea.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So they didn't know what was wrong. So it was really, really detrimental on my physical health. I lost a lot of weight because I wasn't eating for months. But I was hungry. I wanted to eat. I just physically couldn't. I woke up every day as if I had the stomach flu, and just could not stop throwing up. So the lowest weight I hit was 105 pounds, and I'm 5'8", so that's a pretty concerning weight to be at my height. And stopped going to the doctors because they weren't helping. Switched to homeopathic care. I was on 16 supplements a day at this point. Was changing my eating habits, trying like gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan, and all that stuff, and nothing was coming back and working. Still, I was still throwing up every day and was still super sick. And so I actually I was very, very depressed, very suicidal at that point. This was about 5 months into my health journey now. And I felt like I was at the last brink of my of effort of trying. And my grandma actually referred me to a hypnotherapist. And I was like, what the heck is that? Like, are they going to just swing a watch in front of my face and like say I'm sick, I'm not sick anymore? But I went. No, they didn't. There was no watch. And I went, and it was actually, basically, I like to explain hypnotherapy as like a guided meditation. So it was a very deep meditation that I was put under. And for about 25 minutes, I woke up and felt like I was on the biggest, fluffiest cloud in the sky. I felt really good, but I still felt a little bit nauseous. But overall, my perspective of life shifted, and my perspective on my stomach issues started shifting. Not in the best way, because I was like, oh, like I can throw up every day, I'll be fine. Like I can live like this, and such an unhealthy way to think. Right. So for a year and a half after that, I was seeing this therapist often, and he was helping me with the more spiritual side of everything. But my physical symptoms were still pretty aggressive. And so a year and a half later, I had a huge relapse with my stomach. I was back in the emergency room, back getting fluids and IVs and stuff. And they finally diagnosed me with anorexia because of my excessive weight loss, and then also ARFID eating disorder, which is a very uncommon eating disorder. It stands for avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. So that was my biggest struggle, but it was also amazing to get that diagnosis after 2 years finally, because it helped me get the proper help to healing.
What was the help?
So I was seeing an eating disorder therapist and an eating disorder dietitian often. I had to start basically, so to back up really quickly, a lot of people with ARFID, They are known as like the picky eaters of the eating disorder spectrum.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny to me because I feel like all eating disorders are like picky eaters technically.
Sure.
But
so you're the picky eater of the picky eaters, but go ahead.
I was the picky eater of the picky eaters. So basically, the average person who has ARFID, they have an issue with texture of food, colors, or taste of food. So they won't eat. They have like a fear of these things, so they won't eat because of it. Or they will also have an extreme fear of choking or throwing up. So they won't eat to avoid doing those things. So that's the average person with ARFID. My case, which is why it took 2 years for them to diagnose, was very more complex with that than that. So they ended up finding out that the connection between my brain and my gut is overactive. So whenever I have any adrenaline, anxiety, stress, nervousness, excitement, anything that makes my blood pressure rise, the connection between my brain and my gut physically constricts and tightens and causes nausea. So yeah,
you weren't having this fear of eating, right? You wanted to eat.
No, I wanted to eat. I was starving. I wanted nothing more than to eat. I just physically couldn't. And I didn't know that on a subconscious level, I was making the situation worse for myself because I was believing in a story that I was just sick, which was actually contributing to my anxiety, basically. And I didn't even know it. So
how did you get yourself out?
So I had to learn how to physically relax the connection between my brain and my gut. So whenever I felt the nausea coming up, I would have to like breathing exercises, meditation, that type of stuff. But it actually got to a point where about 4 months into recovery, I was starting to feel less nauseous, which is amazing. That's what I was going there to do. But I started realizing that there was another problem because now that I'm not throwing up as much and I'm not as nauseous as much, I started to get cravings for throwing up because for years my body relied on it. And if you're sick, like if you have the flu or if you're drinking a lot and you throw up, you just feel better after. Yeah. So my body started craving it. So I started making myself do it.
So now you're bulimic.
Yeah, I basically technically I was never diagnosed with bulimia, but I was definitely doing bulimia things, but I never had body dysmorphia. I never viewed myself as overweight. I actually viewed myself as opposite, like too skinny. And so then I was doing treatment for trying to break my cravings to throw up, which was a process within itself. And then a month later after that, so now 5 months into my eating disorder recovery, my dad passed away very unexpectedly. He was 43 years old and he had a heart attack in his sleep. So that was a huge hinder on my recovery and my mental health in general.
So what do you do every day? Are you on the other? It seems as though you're on the other side of it.
Yes, I'm in a much better place right now. My eating disorder doesn't really play a major impact on my life anymore. I don't throw up nearly as much as I barely throw up anymore, which is amazing. There's some random days I'll still feel nauseous and, I know how to handle it though. But
I want to stop right there. Stop right there.
Okay.
That's an amazing point. But somebody asked me this the other day because I experience anxiety, right? I can experience really intense acute anxiety. And someone asked me the other day, like, Elliot, you seem like you're on the other side of it. You seem like you conquered it. And I don't like that. I don't like to think the idea that we've conquered it. And you said the same thing. You have the tools to handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really all we really want.
Totally. Yeah. Because anxiety is natural and it's a natural human emotion. And if we need anxiety. It's actually a protective mechanism, as you know, and it's very important. But when anxiety starts to dictate our reality, that's when it's a problem. So it's like you said, managing tools and how you can use it daily, your tools, and work with it. Basically, there's no end goal of defeating anxiety. You can't get rid of it.
It doesn't just go away.
It doesn't go away.
It's the same thing with depression.
Yeah,
it's the same.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of times people talk about these meds, that we can take. And look, I take a med for my anxiety, but I believe that the med itself doesn't do it. It gives you the space to then go really do the work, right?
Yeah.
It turns the volume down a couple notches. Like,
Yeah.
okay, there's some space between me and it now. But if you don't do the work, the med's going to stop working.
Exactly.
The med's going to stop working. So
Totally.
what's some of the work you do on the daily, right? You said you have your
Yeah.
daily things, because
Yeah.
I think this is a big thing for people and listeners. Like, it's not like, oh, I feel good today, I don't have to do it. And oh shit, I feel shitty today, so I better do it.
Yeah.
It's every day.
It's an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, going back to my story, after eating disorder treatment and stuff, last year, actually, the beginning of 2021, I had an onset of my OCD. So OCD is something I've battled with my whole life, and I didn't even realize it until last year when I got diagnosed. That treatment for OCD has been by far the biggest game changer when it comes to doing the inner work.
Can you explain your OCD? Because people think OCD a lot is just like touch,
cleaning,
touch.
Yeah.
Okay, now I walk out of the house over here and I have to twist the doorknob 5 times.
Yeah.
Is that your OCD, or I'm assuming it's not?
No. So I do have like the locks and the stove thing. I do that. My biggest theme of OCD was real event OCD and false memory OCD and relationship OCD, and also a little bit of harm OCD. So there's different themes of OCD that it latches onto. It's not just you have a fear of germs and you like to clean or organize like what society thinks it is.
Most people's OCD is thoughts, right? And that's what we're talking about here, right? You get stuck on a thought.
Yeah. So what happens? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say what happens is OCD is basically an obsession compulsive disorder is when you are bombarded with intrusive thoughts. So intrusive thoughts, they play like a broken record player. They literally do not stop playing. And the reason they're so distressing is because they're ego dystonic. So meaning they go against who you are at the core. That's why they get stuck, because you're like, why? I can't even imagine why I had this thought. What does this mean? I'm having this thought, so they're intrusive thoughts that bring a bunch of anxiety. So the person will perform compulsions to relieve the anxiety, and compulsions could be physical or mental compulsions, which a lot of my compulsions are mental. So it's like rumination, basically arguing with myself back and forth in my brain. So it's been a lot of tools that I've had to learn on how to manage OCD, which I think the tools I've gained are tools that any single person who suffers with anxiety or not can benefit from. It's just self-awareness, cultivation, and unconditional self-acceptance, basically.
So tell me some of the tools.
Yeah, so some of the tools are, OCD therapy was compiled of 3 different types of therapy. So ERP, which is exposure response prevention therapy, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. So these are all super powerful therapies. I found the most help, I would say, in ACT, which I think anyone can benefit from, like I said. But some of the things we learned was identifying cognitive distortions. So identifying when a cognitive distortion comes up. A cognitive distortion is basically a distorted or faulty perception of reality, basically. So some examples of that would be all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking, when we think in extremes or absolutes.
Give me an example of yours. Like what is one of those thoughts that you can have?
So for example, one of my themes with OCD was real event OCD. So I would think like in the past I did something wrong, so therefore I am a bad person, I am not worthy, I am this or I'm that because I have done something wrong.
Got it. I mean, so for example, and I think I'm going to assume that this is it. If I have a bad night's sleep, when I can go OCD is, okay, I didn't sleep. Okay, I'm never going to sleep. Okay, I'm going to die from not sleeping.
Yes. And that would be all or nothing thinking, and also catastrophizing, which is thinking worst case scenario.
So when I trip, there it goes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and sometimes that trip can be like, okay, I'm up for 2 hours and it's not even that big of a deal. And then I'll be all the way at my death. Like,
Totally.
I have Googled how both Michael Jackson overdosed and how Heath Ledger overdosed, because I mean, I know their whole story about how when they, their sleeping problems and yada yada, and like, because I went down a rabbit hole of this on the internet after, in the middle of one bad night's sleep, and then the next thing you know, you're up for 4 days going fuck,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna sleep, so
totally.
yeah,
That's actually a huge compulsion that many people with OCD, doesn't matter what theme it is, Googling. Oh my gosh, I can't even, and like even outside of OCD, because we all have obsessive and compulsive tendencies. Google is so,
stay off of it. Just stay off of WebMD. Don't go
Google
on WebMD. That shit is terrible for you. Like, I have a friend who's like this, and the first thing I asked him was like, are you Googling? Are you going on the internet? And I was like, okay, you got to make me, and we have to like make deals with each other when we know we're going down this rabbit hole of going on the internet and self-diagnosing what our problem is, and then like making it occur. See, I told you this is what was wrong with me.
Yeah, like especially if you have like health anxiety, you start feeling like a pain in your chest, all of a sudden you Google, looks like you're having a heart attack and you're going to die now, so go to the hospital. But it's like, no, just stay off of Google, because Google is not a doctor, and go talk to your actual doctor if you think something's wrong. But Google is so dangerous, and it just actually reinforces anxiety.
Oh, it's the worst.
You're just giving power to anxiety, you're feeding it.
Yeah, it's the worst. Like, I just, it's terrible. Like, I don't know what else to say other than don't fucking Google.
Don't Google.
Like, I mean, I've told my doctor that he was wrong before because I looked it up on Google.
Oh, really?
And he's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, fuck you, is what he's, he's like, no. He's like, are you an expert? No, I'm an expert, because you're so far down the rabbit hole.
And another cognitive distortion is emotional reasoning, and that's believing something is true because it feels so true, because you feel it so intensely in your body, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is true. So there's so many cognitive distortions, there's so many things to become aware of for you to, cultivate that self-awareness and catch yourself when you are in a cognitive distortion, like, oh, my brain's not working correctly right now. I'm in a distorted view. And so a way to combat that would be sitting with uncertainty. So, I may or may not have a heart attack, or I may or may not have some medical something going on. I don't know.
And I do it, like, for me, what helps a lot is I do or I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fucking worrying about whether or not I currently have brain cancer or whatever other medical thing, like that isn't going to help, because you, like, at the end of the day, you do or you don't. And if you do, you'll handle. Like, I think it's really developing the belief in yourself that you will handle whatever comes your way.
Totally.
And for me, that was a huge step.
Totally. I agree. Yeah. Because just sitting with uncertainty, because all we have right now is this present moment. We don't have the past, the future is unknown, but right here is what's happening right now. And that's where like unconditional self-acceptance comes in, accepting what is in this moment, accepting where you are in this moment. I may or may not have a brain tumor or whatever. I may or may not have all these extreme diseases or whatever, but I don't need to figure it out.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Because some of my listeners may be a little older, right?
Okay.
And they see this young person, you on here, and this word unconditional self-acceptance, right? And sometimes, and look, I understand what you're saying, but sometimes, like the older generation, my generation, looks at the younger generation and goes, yo, toughen up, buttercup, and just get a little better.
Yeah.
But you're not saying that, right? You're not saying that you can't be more skillful at things, that you can't improve. Yeah. Right? You're not like, oh, well, the world has to adapt to me.
No.
Right? So explain that type of thinking, because look, that drives me crazy, right? Like, no, it's my job, Elliot, to go figure out how to make my life in the world.
Oh, yeah.
The world's not changing for me, even though I do unconditionally accept myself and love myself all at the same time.
Yeah.
So explain what that means a little bit.
So I think especially with this generation, how to say this in a
You don't have to be skillful, just spit it out.
I was going to say, there's a lot of very sensitive people in this generation. So everyone's like tiptoeing around each other and all this stuff. But, and another thing is like how you said the world, some people think the world needs to adapt to us, but it's like, this is where we need to start taking accountability for ourselves and how we are showing up in the world, how we are showing up to our day-to-day lives. And is it the life that we want to create? Are we sticking to our values or not? Are we living the life that we are dreaming of? And with unconditional self-acceptance, it's kind of like, for example, for someone who has OCD, especially real event OCD, so they're stuck on something in the past, something that happened that they did, they perceive that is completely wrong. They're a bad person because they did this. How can they move on from this huge thing, whatever? So unconditional self-acceptance is basically just accepting your past, accepting who you are, where you are right now in this moment, without expecting the world to accommodate for you, kind of like you said. Because we are not the main character of this movie.
You're only the main character of one movie. There's one movie you're the main character of, and it's yours, but there's a whole lot of movies playing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's 7 billion of them.
7 billion, exactly. And I think that's something else too, where we get so caught up in life, is actually that hypnotherapist that I was saying, he made a really awesome analogy for me, but kind of describing life itself as like a movie screen, and we are watching the movie screen, but what happens is that we get so attached to the story or the movie that's being played on the screen. So for example, that would be everything that's happening in our lives. We get so attached to the external world and so attached to what's happening around us, but in reality, this isn't who we are. What's happening on the outside of us externally isn't who we are. Even this physical body, if we're getting spiritual, this isn't who I am either. I'm in here, an energy, a soul, so we get so attached to these things around us, and that's what causes anxiety. That's what causes all these issues. But in reality, it's not as serious as we're making it, or as we're making it to be. So kind of just taking a step back, self-acceptance, self-compassion, like I'm here right now, like, and noticing and taking responsibility. Okay, maybe am I doing things that are helping me? Can I improve my actions or my responses to things? How could I become a better person? Because no one else is going to do the work, unfortunately, for us. I wish I wish someone else could do the inner work.
Do you though?
Not really, no, but it would be easier. It would be easier.
Sure, but do you wish? I don't wish. I don't wish that somebody just dropped $50 million on my lap either.
No.
Like, I mean, like we say we do and yada yada, but like we've seen lottery winners, their life goes to shit.
Totally.
Their life goes to shit. I really love how you're explaining this, because like I said, like so often people just go unconditional self-acceptance, my ass. Like you're just okay where you are. And that's just not what it is. It's really what it is. It's just realizing where you are.
Yeah.
This is where I am. This is how I got here. There is nothing I can do about this currently, but I bet you I can make it more skillful in the future.
Totally.
And people don't realize that, right? Like, because how can you, I like to describe it as like, you're going from, if I'm going to drive to your house, let's say on the top of the mountain where you are, I better know where I am. Where's Elliot starting? Because I can't get directions in a roadmap of how to go there and how to get to your house if I don't know where I am currently.
Totally.
So you better realize and accept, okay, Elliot is at Elliot's house, and this is the address of Elliot's house. And we're really good with that, with like physical things. We do that really well, but we don't do that so well with ourselves, because we don't. And the problem is, we might know where we want to go, but we don't know where we are. Right? We don't know where we currently are. So the roadmap is impossible to make.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. I totally agree.
It's just impossible, because maybe the first step for somebody is getting up in the morning on time.
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe somebody else gets up in the morning on time, but then the next step of like doing something skillful early is their problem. So you have to see where you are to see what the next step is.
Yeah, exactly. And not setting unrealistic expectations on yourself, which is something a lot of people do as well. like you said, just accepting where you are in this moment and how you've gotten here and how you can take where you are now and what you can do with it. You know, how can you, again, the accountability thing. But yeah, setting unrealistic expectations is super detrimental to our mental health as well.
So what do you do with all of this, right? Like, you know, you're a meditation teacher, and how have you, I like to use this word, like, so all these things have happened to you, okay, but really they've happened for you. You've been able to make them happen for you. How have you done that?
Well, I wanted to say too, I'm not teaching meditation anymore also. Okay. So I'm an ex-meditation and yoga teacher. Right. I have, but I meditate daily. It's very, very powerful. I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question one more time?
How have you made these things of your life that have happened to you, which all seem very difficult and bad, how have you changed that to be something that's happened for you that actually makes your life?
Okay. Well, so what I said before, how you made that comment too of how it would be easy if someone just did the work for us. Last year, where I was with my OCD, I was extremely depressed. I was extremely suicidal. It was probably the most intense mental battle I've ever experienced outside of my eating disorder and all these other things I've been through. But looking back at it all now from where I'm at today, it has transformed my life into such a deeper awakening than I could have ever imagined. Because I thought I was like woke before, because I taught yoga and taught meditation and stuff, but I was so far from truth, and I was so far from true self-awareness, and my nervous system was so dysregulated. And this all the darkness that I've been through has brought me to where I'm at today, and has brought me to this place of empowerment, and has brought me to this place of, you know, understanding that amidst the darkness, there is light. And that's kind of what I'm trying to portray with my book, The Maze for Rude Awakening, that there is light amidst the darkness. And how can you find your light within that darkness? How can you take what has happened for you in the past as lessons rather than, what's the word? Shitty situations, like a victim mentality, like, oh, life is so hard and all these things that have happened to me. Like, it is hard, but these things have helped you become who you are today. And how have you worked? Perspective change. It's perspective shift. Yes. Yeah. I wouldn't have the awareness that I do now if I've not gone through all the darkness that I've went through. And I would not have found my way out of the maze of my own mind if I didn't go through all that stuff. And I would still be living with unconsciously with a dysregulated nervous system. And I would still think I was super self-aware and woke because I knew yoga and meditation.
Who doesn't think they're self-aware? It's, you know, totally. Everyone thinks they're self-aware. Oh, I know exactly who I am and what's going on with my life. No, everyone does, you know? Yeah,
totally. I thought, that's very common until you see, or until something, like for me, example with my OCD that happened. That's when it really shifted, like woke me up to like, oh shit, like I am really dysregulated. I really don't have much self-awareness, like, because if I did, this wouldn't be controlling me as much as I'm letting it control me. So yeah, it's really, really perspective shift and how you can utilize the things that have happened as lessons to move forward and grow. Basically, right. It's a journey. It's always a never-ending journey.
Right. You probably won't say you're woke now, because I mean, I don't feel like, I'm just like, all right, well, today's the day.
No, yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, no, yeah. I'm daily learning how to cultivate self-awareness. And for me, that looks like, you know, just becoming aware of my thought process, my mind, what it's doing, and how, you know, being able to be the observer of my mind.
And it's not that those thoughts stop coming necessarily. No, you just don't attach to them. And this is the key, right? Going back to that question that person asked me earlier, Elliot, how is it that you conquered it? There's no conquering, again, right? I'm just super aware of it. I can go, oh, hi, anxiety. Right?
Yep.
That's what this is. You are just this. I know you will pass.
Totally.
You know, I know you'll pass. You can't stay forever. And what's going to help it not stay forever is I'm not going to focus on you. Yeah. I'm going to continue going about my day as if you weren't here. I said hello to you. I gave you a second. And now I'm gonna tell you to fuck off because Elliot's gonna go do Elliot.
I love that. Yeah, it's
So,
basically like wearing anxiety like an uncomfortable coat, kind of
mhm,
like, okay, like, yeah, I can put it on, but it's not gonna stop me from doing what I need to do today. And
right.
it's not gonna control my life. Like, it can be here, you're welcome, but I'm not gonna give you any more power. I'm not gonna feed
That's
into
its
it. I'm not
food.
gonna, yeah,
Controlling you is its food. It's how it eats and grows and becomes stronger and bigger, which is bad
yeah,
for us, you know?
yeah.
So if you just starve it, then it goes away.
Yeah. And it's weird because a lot of people think like, because anxiety is such an uncomfortable emotion or feeling
Well,
sensation in the body.
it presents physically too.
Yes. So it's such an uncomfortable sensation. So what happens with anxiety and why it latches and starts controlling people is because we resist it. Like when we feel anxiety, we want to resist, like, oh my God, I don't like this feeling. I don't want to be anxious right now. Like I can't do this right now. And that's what is feeding it. You're giving it power because you're now labeling it as dangerous. So your brain is now perceiving this as a threat. So it will reinforce and it grows. But in reality, like you said, or just wearing it like an uncomfortable sweater, kind of like taking it on with the day, like, okay, I said hello to you. I noticed you. You're welcome to be here. But, you know,
Yeah,
that's all
I
I'm
like
gonna,
that. We've all worn uncomfortable clothes before. It's not our first
yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah. Right. So just throw it on.
So,
I can
Alex,
wear it for now.
as we wrap it here, there's a couple questions like I almost asked you when we were offline that I do like to ask. But the first one is, I believe everyone has a power in the world, a superpower, and it doesn't make you rich and famous or anything like that. It's this thing that you have inside of you that you get to go then give to the world, and the world then returns it back to you. So what do you think your power is?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think right now, because I'm obviously growing every day, but right now, I believe my power and where I'm finding my strong suit in is my creativity, especially with my author journey right now. Um, with my book, The Maze for Rude Awakening, it is a combination of psychological thriller, horror, and self-help fiction. So it's alternative approach. It's a new type of genre that I'm trying to create, to really showcase and help guide people who are trapped in the maze of their own mind, who are struggling with that darkness, that there is light. And so hopefully, I believe right now in this moment, my superpower, I guess, would be holding space for others who are struggling with that darkness, and walking through it with them, helping guide them, and showing them that they are not alone. I think that's a really powerful thing to integrate right now, and especially with the state of the world right now, with all the chaos happening in the world and COVID situation that happened. A lot of people are struggling with their mental health right now.
Yeah, COVID has changed the world more than just from a pandemic sense, right? Like,
Totally.
it created this pause where a lot of people are realizing that they're unhappy.
Yeah.
A lot of people are realizing that, man, I want more out of my life. Like, this is some bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like waking up and going about doing my day like I've always done my day, and it just kind of sucked. And then when our day got taken away from us, people then realized, they're like, man, you know what? I ain't going back to work at fucking Walmart. Fuck Walmart. You want me to go
Yeah.
work at Walmart? You're gonna have to pay me more, or
Totally.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
And I get that, because I don't want to work at Walmart. Not that working at Walmart is bad. If look, man, you get those greeters sometimes at Walmart, they fucking you. They're like, yo, I love being at Walmart.
Yeah.
Great, amazing. Go work at Walmart.
Yeah.
Go work at Walmart, please. If right now Walmart is the only thing that you can do to feed your family, well, then please go work at Walmart. But if you have a choice and it's not really what you want, then stop. And I think that's what COVID showed us.
Yeah. A lot of people.
A lot of people. So, you know what? I'll make it on $50,000 a year. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I ain't going to work in Walmart. I'm going to make YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So whatever
awesome.
it is,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
totally. Got to do what is passionate for you and what's going to
mhm.
feed your soul and ignite your fire within.
For sure. All right. Last question is, look, we are nothing alike. You are young. I am not. You are, when you look at this online world, right, which is, I'm sure, where you're trying to sell your book and do your thing.
Yeah.
I'm not your avatar. I'm not your ICA. The people that listen to this might not be, and I don't have a big enough show that's going to like just blow you up, right? Like,
Yeah.
So why are you taking this hour to sit here and talk to me?
Honestly, I just love connecting with other people. And I, to be completely honest, like was really excited because I didn't really know about who you were, but when I Googled you, and saw that you were ex-UFC fighter, I used to watch the UFC all the time growing up with my dad. So like, I was like, this is so exciting. Like how cool. I'm going to talk to an ex-UFC fighter. So, and I saw that you were an author as well. And just like to connect with other people, especially people who are really passionate about mental health and, you know, spreading awareness, kind of how we were doing today on this episode. So why not? Like, I think it's just building connections, and no matter who they are, no matter who's even listening to this, if they're not exactly my target audience, it's still making an impact in some way. You know, just sharing my voice.
I just like to ask this question because, and I explain this often on the episode when I do ask it, is people always like, oh man, I need a return. We're always looking for that return. And I get that. And we do have to balance that. We know we have to balance our time, like that we do, you know, you can't just go waste your time all the time. But it doesn't always have to be about this return. It doesn't always have to be about, you know, knowing what you're going to get back in every situation. Man, maybe you're just going to go have an experience with another human being, you know?
Totally.
So, and
and that was my go on.
Ahead.
Sorry.
No.
I was just going to say that was what I wanted to do. I was like, yeah, like I wasn't, you know, I'm not expecting me or my book to like take off after this podcast, but just to sit down with you and meet you. And it's just really exciting and really cool to develop new connections with people. And you never know. What it could create.
No, you never know. And sometimes like you have to sit down for maybe a conversation where you're like, man, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And I think this is like, you know, like, for example, I have friends that are in the dating world, and they're like, well, you know, I don't want to go out with that person because what if it's bad? Well, I don't know. What if it's bad? So what? Go have a bad date.
What if it's good?
What if it's good? What if you make it good? What if the two of you have to make it good rather than, and then like, and then, oh, it has to be good. And if it's not good and it's on them, well, what if it's on you? Because you're an asshole. Go make it good, you know, go make it good. So
that's the accountability part.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks for making it good, Alex. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was super fun. I'm super honored to be here.
Tell everyone where they can reach out if they feel connected to you, where they can find you, where they can find your book and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram mostly. My Instagram is Alex Marie Russell, with 2 S's and 2 L's, because a lot of people spell my last name wrong. That's my main page. You'll find me there, and my book promotion, all that stuff. My website is called Pearlized Spirit. So Pearl and then Ized Spirit. And that's kind of like this mental health community I'm trying to build. It's also an Instagram page as well. So yeah, you can find me there. You can buy my book on my website. You can also find my book on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, all those fun places. So I'm out there.
All right. Guys,
so
as always, don't go out in the world and try to be Alex. She's her unique self with her own special power. And don't go out in the world and try to be me, because I'm my unique self with my, you know, benefits and drawbacks and power, as we say. So go out in the world and find your own power, everyone.